Om Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Namo Brahmadibhyo Brahma Vidya Sampradaya Kartribhyo Vamsharishibhyo Namo Gurubhyaha. So we were looking at the beginning of the third chapter, correct? The introduction we saw, which is the starting of what we say as Muni Khanda or Yajnavalkya Khanda, because in the next two chapters are called Muni Khanda, the third and fourth chapter of the Upanishad, where Yajnavalkya is the main teacher here. And these two khandas are more of Manana Pradhana and Tarka Pradhana, like that. Bhashyakara also introduced it. And in the beginning, there is a story. And the story also is there for what purpose? We saw that already. That for the sake of gaining Vidya, one has to either give dana or you have to get Vidya by giving Vidya. Like this, there are different ways of gaining Vidya to show that only the story is there. Of course, there are other teachings also which are part of these, the Brahmanas which are going to come in this third chapter. The initial first Brahmana is called Ashwala Brahmana. The meaning or why it is called Ashwala Brahmana we'll see very soon. And here only the Upasana is discussed. In fact, the first three Brahmanas do not have any Brahma Vidya directly, but they are still relevant because they are all discussing Upasanas. Now in this we saw that Janaka, the king of Videha, he conducted a huge or a very big yajna. Then he invited, or many people came of their own accord to see the big yajna from Kuru and Panchala Desha. Okay, Kuru Panchalanam Brahmanaha Abhisametaha, like that the Upanishad is saying. They all assembled there from Kuru and Panchala. And then Janaka had a jignasa, a desire to know who amongst all these Brahmanas, they are all great scholars, but who amongst them is the greatest? So Anuchana Tamaha, Kim Kaha. So who is the Anuchana Tamaha? This desire to know that was there. And so what did he do? He got hold of 1,000 cows and tied some gold also on each of their horns and assembled all these cows in a stable or in a pen. And he said that later on, in fact, he's going to say that he will say that whoever amongst you is the best, you can take these 1,000 cows. So with that intention, he actually got all these cows in one place. So that is the first vakya here. And in fact, we have to see the bhashya for that. That we'll quickly see. So Janako Namaha Kila Samrat Raja Babhuva Videhana. So there was a Samrat, a Raja of the Videha Desha. Videhanam Babhuva Raja. He was there. And he is called Vaideha. That is again a Tadita Pratyaya, correct? So Tatra Bhavaha is the sutra actually. So the one who is there in a Desha, you can use a Tadita Pratyaya and bring that meaning. So Vaideha means who is there, Tatra Bhavaha. Videhe Bhavaha Vaideha. So Tatra Bhavaha Vaideha, the one who lives. In this case, he is the king. He is called Vaideha. Anybody who lives in Videha can be called Vaideha. That's why even Sita is called Vaidehi, correct? There is a name called Vaidehi for Sita because she is also from Videha. Then Sacha Bahudakshinena Yajnena Shakantara Prasiddho va Bahudakshinaha Name Yajnaha. So he did a yajna with lot of dakshina. That is one meaning. Okay, lot of giving away of presents, etc. Or Bahudakshina can even be a name of a yajna, Bhashyakara says. In some other shakha, it could have been Prasiddha, he says. Shakantara Prasiddha va Bahudakshinaha Nama Yajnaha. Means the name of the yajna itself is Bahudakshina. It could have been. So then he did that Bahudakshina yajna. Or he could have done some yajna where lot of presents were given. Correct? Lot of dakshina was given. And Bhashyakara guesses that it could have been Ashwamedha yajna because Janaka is a king, correct? And the biggest yajna a king can do is the Ashwamedha yajna, where again lot of dakshina also is given. So Bhashyakara says Ashwamedha va dakshina bahulyat bahudakshinaha iha uchyate. So it could have been even an Ashwamedha yajna where anyway lot of dakshina is given in that yajna, and therefore it is called bahudakshinaha in this here in this vakya. And tena ije ayajat. So with that yajna in that form, the yajna in that form of Ashwamedha, or in the form in which where lot of dakshina was involved, with that yajna he worshipped. He did that yajna. Okay, then what? Tatra tasmin yajne. So in that yajne what? Nimantritaha darshana kama hava. So either people who have been invited, nimantritaha means, or darshana kama means those who wanted to come and anyway witness how this yajna is being done. Because any great yajna, even in those days, even today, if somebody does something big yajna and all, we go and see at least, correct? Even participating in it, listening to the mantra and all is supposed to be giving some phala. So people had come both for both purposes. And from where all these people had come? Kurunam, Deshanam, Panchalanancha, Brahmanaha. So they had come, all these Brahmanas from Kuru Desha and Panchala Desha. And Panchala Desha also and Kuru Desha both are very familiar to us, correct? Kuru only Kauravas, all Mahabharata. And then Panchala Desha is Panchali, came from Panchala Desha, we know. So all the Brahmanas from these two deshas. Why these two deshas are specifically mentioned here means Bhashyakara says, Teshu hi vidusham bahulyam prasiddham. So in those days, all these Brahmanas, the scholars, vidushas, they were all, these two deshas were very popular for their scholars, okay, Vaidika scholars. So all the Vaidika people were living in either Kuru Desha or Panchala Desha in those days. Therefore, they all came from there. Abhisametaha means Abhisangataha Babu. So they all came and assembled for this yajna. Okay, then what? Tatra Mahantam Vidvat Samudayam Drishtva. So having seen this great assembly of scholars, Tasya Kila Janakasya Vaidehasya Yajamanasya Konu Khalu Atra Brahmishtaha iti Visheshena Nyatumicha Vijignasa Babhuva. So for this Janaka, who is the Yajamana, okay, and who is the one who is living in this Videha Desha, he had a Jignasa, a desire to know what Kaha nu Khalu Atra Brahmishtaha. So amongst all the people who are there here, who is Brahmishtaha? Who is the greatest Brahmana? Who is the greatest scholar? That he wanted to know specifically. Visheshena Jnatumicha was there. That is why it is called Vijignasa. So he wanted to, because all of them are great scholars, but still amongst all these great people, who is the greatest? That he specially wanted to know. Okay, then how Katham? So how did he wanted to know this? So that it is there. kasvit kahanu khalu yesham brahmananam anuchanatamaha. Okay. So he wanted to know amongst all these people who are there, all these brahmanas, anuchanatamaha is the word used here. Anuchana means the one who has studied the Veda, the Vedangas, all the allied subjects along with the Veda Dhyanam they have studied. So they are all anuchanas, Veda Vedanka with. But even amongst them, the Tamap is there. Who is the best? So sarve ime anuchanaha kahasvid yesham atishayena anuchanaha iti. So that is how he had this doubt. Here he wanted to know that. So amongst all these people, although all of them are anuchanaha, but even amongst them, who is the greatest? Who is specially or the greatest scholar? Specifically, who is the greatest? He wanted to know that. So saha anuchanatama vishayotpanna jignasaha san. Okay, so anuchanatama vishayotpanna jignasaha means in whom the desire to know who is the greatest Vedic scholar here, that has risen, that desire. Being that person, what tad vijnana upayartham. So to know that what is the way now, how can he know who is the greatest here? So he now wanted to give present to the person who is the greatest, and to find who is the greatest. Of course, if somebody claims that he is the greatest, others will challenge him, correct? So there will be a debate and all that. So he wanted to start a debate. So for that purpose, what did he do? So the upaya for that is what? Gavam sahasram prathama vayasam. Bhashyakara adds that. So 1,000 cows only is said in the Upanishad, it is simply there Gavam sahasram. But Bhashyakara adds prathama vayasam means what? They are all young cows. And so they can have many calves, and they can give a lot of milk over their lifetime. And so all these cows, what did he do? Avarurodha goshte avarodham karayamasa. So in a goshta, in a pen or in a stable, he tied all of them, correct? He brought all these cows and he confined them to that pen. And then what? Kim vishishtaha ta gavaha avaruddaha iti uchyate. Okay. Also further, what type of cows? Kim vishishtaha. What is special about all these cows also? Not just cows alone, but he also tied some gold to their horns. And how much gold? Pala chaturtha bhagaha padaha. So here, dasha padaha is there. Pada here is not the leg. It is actually a unit of measure, and there is another unit of measure called pala. Pala chaturtha bhagaha means 1/4 of the pala is called a pada here, and so much gold, suvarnasya padaha, and so gold of measuring 10 padas. Dasha padaha ekaikasyaha goho shringayoho abadhaha babuhu. So he tied also 10 padas of gold in the horns of each cow. And Bhashyakara further says, Pancha padaha ekaikasmin shringe. Okay, so he even makes it even more clear. He says, 5 pada in each horn of the cows were tied. So there is both gold and cows available as a present. And so after doing all these things, what did Janaka do? So that is there next. Tan hovacha brahmanaha bhagavanto yo wo brahmishtaha sa yeta ga udajatam iti. So then Tan Brahmanan to okay, those Brahmanas he then addressed Janaka. So he says, hey Brahmanaha Bhagavantaha, so you are all great. You are like Bhagavan. And amongst you, okay, Yaha Vaha Brahmishtaha, whoever is the greatest Brahmishtaha. You are all Brahmanas, Brahmas, but amongst you also, whoever is Atishayena Brahma. So whoever is specifically the greatest amongst you. Saha eta gaha udajatam, he says. So that person can take all these cows along with the gold. So he has given an open invitation. Then hearing that, all the Brahmanas, they were little bit, Sankocha was there, correct? They, although they were all great scholars, but in a great assembly again, how can you just announce that you are the greatest? That may be even looked upon as some kind of arrogance, correct? So they were all a little bit shy or withdrawn, you can say, correct? So that's what the Upanishad says here. Teha brahmanaha na dadrushuhu. Dadrushuhu means, so dhritaha means somewhat proud and arrogant and all that, correct? The dhru dhatu. Dadrushuhu here means not pragalbhaha, like that Bhashyakara says, those who are not arrogant or proud. So they became a little bit withdrawn, you can say. So nobody was coming forward to claim the cows initially. Then what happens? Ataha Yajnavalkyaha Swameva Brahmacharinam Uvacha Etaha Somya Udaja Samashrava iti. Okay, so thereafter what? Yajnavalkya, he comes forward. Okay, then he tells one of his own brahmacharis, students, Someva Brahmacharinam Uvacha, he told him. What did he say? Etaha, all these, hey Somya, oh my dear student, all these cows, udaja means drive them away, take them away with you. And he calls out his name, Samashrava. So the pluti is for calling out. Okay. And sorry, not Samashrava, Samashrava. So his student's name is Samashrava. Means that name itself, Bhashyakara again takes it as indicating that he is a Samavedhi. So that's why he is called Samashravaha, means Samavidhim Shrinoti, the one who makes you hear Samagana. That's why he is called Samashrava. And from this again, Bhashyakara, what does he understand? He says that Yajnavalkya is a Shukla Yajurvedi. He is a Yajurvedi. But his student is a Samavedi. That means Yajnavalkya was also teaching Samaveda in his Gurukula. And if you have to chant Samaveda, means you have to know all the Rik also, which makes up the Sama, correct? So whenever we learn Samaveda, first you have to learn the Rik Dandavat, they will say. That means the Rik itself you will learn without much Swara. Then that Rik only you have to then sing as a Sama. So that means by implication, Yajnavalkya also knew Rig and Sama. And of course, he is a Yajurvedi. And then, of course, Atharvana Veda also is a subsidiary to Rig Yajur Sama only. So he must have known Atharvana Veda also. So he is a Chaturvedi. So Yajnavalkya is not just knew only one Veda. He is not an Anuchana of just one Veda. He is a Chaturveda Anuchana. Okay. So he is a Chaturvedi. He knew all the four Vedas. That is implied by the name of his Shishya. That's what Bhashyakara points out here beautifully. So Samashrava, he called out and said that, hey Samashrava, take all these cows. Then what his Shishya is very obedient to his Guru. So he says, that Shishya, what did you do then? Taha Udachakara. So the Shishya then took all the cows away. Then what? Seeing this, all the Brahmanas thought, hey, this guy, how can he claim that he is the greatest amongst all of us? They became angry. Teha Brahmana Chukruduhu. So they all became angry. Krudh Dhatu, Chukruduhu. Teha Brahmanaha Chukruduhu. And how did they become angry? Katham Naha Brahmishtaha Bruvite ityatha Janakasya Vaidehasya Hota Ashwalaha Babhuva. Okay, so how can you claim that you are the Brahmishta amongst all of that? How can you say that? Okay, Kathan no Brahmishtaha Bruvita iti. And thereafter, Ataha Janakasya Vaidehasya Hota Ashwalaha Babu. So there was in that assembly Janaka's Hota. Now Hota means the Rigveda priest. Okay, the Rigveda, the Brahmana who is a Rigvedi and who actually in any Vedic karma, the Rigvedi has a very prominent role, because Rigvedi only has to chant the Rig for a particular Devata and invoke the Devata. Then the Yajurvedi is called Adhvaryu. Yajurvedi is the one who has to offer the oblation. Whatever is to be offered to the Devata, that Yajurvedi will do, the Adhvaryu. Then Samavedi has to praise the Devata, keep him pleased. So Samavedi is called Udgata. So there is a Hota, Adhvaryu, Udgata, and then the Atharvana Vedi is called Brahma, and he is to supervise the all other three, whether they are doing their job properly or not. That means normally the Atharvana Vedi should also be a Chaturvedi, because he has to know everything else. So like this, there are 4 types of Vaidikas who take part in the Yajna. And in that Hota here is called Ashvala. So he is Janaka's Hota. So that means he does he is part of the Yajnas which Janaka is doing as the Hota. And he was there. And then he also was very angry, because being the royal Hota, he will have some pride and all that, correct? Arrogance also. So he became very angry that how can Yajnavalkya take away all these cows? And by implication, he is claiming that he is the greatest amongst all the people who are assembled here. And we are all inferior to him also is implied by that, correct? Not only is he the greatest, but we are all somehow inferior to Yajnavalkya. So therefore, what did he say? Saha yenam papracha tvannu khaluno Yajnavalkya brahmishto siti. Okay, again here there is a Pluta is there, 3 matras. Okay, Pluta means, for those who do not know that, there the Hrasva Dirgha Pluta, like that we say in Sanskrit. So A is Hrasva, correct? Short vowel. A is Dirgha. Then A, like that 3 matras if you have, that is called Pluta. So normally Pluta can be used for calling out, or even when the typical example which is given is Takram, like that one lady is shouting, it seems, on the streets, because she wants to sell the Takram is your buttermilk. So if somebody wants to announce something or call somebody, you can use Pluta here, but Pluta can be used for other purposes also. So here he is asking, so Tvannu Khalu no Yajnavalkya, hey Yajnavalkya, so are you indeed Brahmishtaha, the best amongst all the Brahmanas who are there here? And that he is using that Asi, like that he is again having Pluta means, that is like more like an insulting question, implying that you are not really the greatest here. Okay. So it is more like an invective or an insulting tone, that Pluta here. So Bhashyakar also gives it as Bharsanartha. So this Pluti here is for showing a certain kind of anger, like it's like almost like a scolding. So are you really the greatest here? He asked that. Then Yajnavalkya is very, in fact, he is not really arrogant. That's what he wants to show, at least. So what does he say? Saho vacha. Okay. So then Yajnavalkya tells this Ashwala. What does he say? Namo vayam brahmishtaya kurmaha gokamaha eva vayam. So here namaha means namaskurmaha. I salute, I do namaskara to the one who is the brahmishta here in this assembly. So I don't claim I am the brahmishtaha, but I am only interested in the cows, he says. Gokamaha eva vayam. So we are only interested We are desirous of the cows because we have a lot of people in our Gurukula, and we can use all these cows. Okay. So I am only Gokamaha, or we are only Gokamaha, myself and my Shishyas, is including them also here. And I am ready to do Namaskara to the one who is the Brahmishta here. Like that he says. That's his answer. But still, if you are taking away the cows, means you have to be the Brahmishta, otherwise you cannot touch the cows. That's what Janaka has said, correct? So since you have taken the cows, you will now be interrogated. You have to debate and prove you are worthy of taking those cows, correct? So that's why now what? Tamha tatayeva prashtum dadre hota ashwalaha. So the ashwala now, he is determined, or he resolved, firmly he resolved to ask him certain questions. So that by then you will know whether he is really the one who is the greatest here or not. So for that purpose, he was ready to ask or interrogate Yajnavalkya. So Ashwala is going to interrogate him in this Brahmana. That's why it is called Ashwala Brahmana. Okay, we'll quickly see the bhashya. Ga evam avarudhya Brahmanan tan hovacha. So having got all the cows into the stable, then Janaka addresses the Brahmanas. He Brahmanaha Bhagavantaha iti amantriya. So calling their attention, okay, by saying, He Brahmanaha Bhagavantaha Yaha Vaha Yushmakam Brahmishtaha. So whoever is the greatest amongst you, okay, Yushmakam. So Sarve Yuyam Brahmanaha. So all of you are Brahmanas, scholars, Vaidikas. But Atishayena Yushmakam Brahmayaha. So whoever is the specifically or special amongst you, specifically great. Saha eta gaha udajatam. So that person can drive away all these cows. Utkalayatu udajatam means you can drive away all these cows. Swagriham prati, your own house. You can take all these cows to your griha. So having heard this from Janaka, then what? Teha brahmanaha na dadrushuhu. So they did not dare to announce, or they did not dare to go and take the cows away. Okay, none of them came forward for that. So dadrushuhu means what? Teha kila evam mukta brahmanaha brahmishtatam atmanaha pratignatam na dadrushuhu na pragalbaha samvrittaha. So samvritta means they all became. Okay, they have become. What have they become? Na pragalbaha. They were not coming out openly because they thought it will be arrogant, or it will only shows that we are proud. So all these Brahmanas, having been told this way, they were not ready to see in themselves the Brahmishtatama. So my Brahmanatvam is not the greatest. They were not able to see that because they were all not that arrogant or proud, you can say. Okay, so what then? Apragalbha bhuteshu brahmaneshu ataha yajnavalkya swam atmiyam eva brahmacharinam antevasinam uvacha. So in this manner, when all these Brahmanas who did not dare to actually claim the cows, amongst them Yajnavalkya now comes. Okay, and then his own brahmachari, he is now addressing his own brahmachari. Brahmachari here is Antevasi, also Bhashyakara says. Antevasi means one who lives with the Guru. So we all went to the Gurukulam and lived with our Guru. So only the student who lives with the Guru can be called Antevasi. Otherwise, you can be a Vidyarthi, like that. Or nowadays, you are all having online classes. Means you are all Zoom Vasi only, not really Antevasi. So, but here this Brahmachari who is living with Yajnavalkya in the Gurukulam, to him he said, what did he say? Etaha gaha he somya udaja udgamaya asmat grihan prati. So now, hey Somya, hey dear student, all these cows now you drive them away, udgamaya, towards our griha, our gurukula, our house. And hey Samashravaha, that is the name. Okay, Samashrava, he calls. And Samashrava is the name of the student. And then Bhashyakara says Samavidim hi shrinoti. So why is he called Samashravaha? Means he makes others hear the Samavidim hi shrinoti. Ataha arthat Chaturvedaha Yajnavalkya. So from this we can infer that Yajnavalkya is a Chaturvedi. Like I said already, because he is having a student who is a Samavedi, means he is teaching Samaveda also. And to teach Samaveda, you have to know Rig also. So Rig Veda and Samaveda, and yeah, he is being a Yajurvedi, of course, Yajurveda also he knows. And also he must have known Atharvana Veda also. So he is a Chaturvedi. Yajnavalkya is a Chaturvedi. Okay. Taha Gaha Ha Uda Chakara. So then all these cows, this Samashrava, he started driving them. So Utkalitavan Acharya Griham Prati. So towards his Acharya's house, the Shishya is now driving all the cows. Okay, then what? Yajnavalkyena Brahmishta Panasvikaranena Atmanaha Brahmishtata Pratignyata iti Teha Chukruduhu Kruddavantaha Brahmanaha. So the Brahmanas are now seeing that Yajnavalkya has taken all this price, correct? This 1,000 cows with all the gold and all that, this Brahmishta Pana. So the Pana or the price which is supposed to be given to whoever is the greatest here, that he has taken for himself. So by that he has now announced himself as the Brahmishta. Therefore they all became angry. All the Brahmanas who are there, Kruddhavantaha, Chukruduhu, that is the thing. So Tesham Krodha Abhiprayam Achashte. So why did they become angry? Okay. What made them angry, or in which manner they become angry? So that opinion, his opinion, he is now, that also is given here. What is that? Patan naha asmakam ekaika pradhananam brahmishtaha asmiti bruvita iti. So how can you say that amongst all of us, each one of us are great? Ekaika pradhananam. Pradhana means here you are important. All the Brahmanas who are there are important people. They are all great scholars. Each one of us are great. Amongst all of us who are great, how can you claim you are the greatest? Okay, that is the reason for their anger. Therefore, what? Ataha evam kruddheshu brahmaneshu janakasya yajamanasya hota ritvik ashwalaha nama babhuva asi. Okay, so thereafter what? Amongst all these people who were angry in this manner, all these Brahmanas, there was this Ashwala also, who is the Janakas, who is the Yajamana there. Janakas Hota. So Hota Ritvik, he is a Ritvik, and he is a Hota, means he is a Rigvedi. And his name is Ashwala. Ashwalaha Nama Babuva, he was there. And Sa Evam Yajnavalkyam. So he then in this manner he asked towards Yajnavalkya. And what kind of a person this Ashwala, he is also Brahmishta Abhimani. He also thinks he is the greatest Brahmana who is there. And also not only that, he is a Raja Ashrayatvacha Drishtaha. So he is proud and arrogant because he is the Hota of Janaka. He has the patronage of Janaka, the king. So he is the royal Ritvik. Being the royal Ritvik, he thinks he is the, although he didn't openly come and claim it, he thinks that he is the greatest. And he is proud and arrogant. So he now asks Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkyam papracha prishtavan. So he asked Yajnavalkya. What did he ask? Katham. In which manner he asked? How did he ask, in fact? Tvannu khalu no Yajnavalkya brahmishta si iti. Brahmishto si iti. So here again the pluti is there, correct? Plutihi bhartsanartha. So bhartsana means talking with like an insulting or in a scolding or invective, this Varsana. So so he's in his question only that insulting tone is there, or like a scolding tone is there. So are you the greatest here? Tvannu khalu amongst us naha Yajnavalkya brahmishtaha asi. Are you the greatest amongst all of us here? He's asking that. Then what does Yajnavalkya say? Saho vacha Yajnavalkya namaskurmaha vayam brahmishtaya. So I do namaskara to whoever is the brahmishta amongst us. Idanim gokamaha smaha vayamiti. So we are only interested in taking all the cows. We are desirous of the cows. I am not claiming that anything more than that. But still what? Tam brahmishta pratignyam santam tataha eva brahmishta panasvikaranat prashtum dadre dhritavan manaha hota ashvalaha. So anyway, but he has claimed the price for the brahmishta. Having claimed that, he has also proclaimed himself as the brahmishta, correct? Brahmishta pratignyam santam. So being the one who has proclaimed himself as the brahmishta, towards that Yajnavalkya, now what this Ashvala, he has now determined that I want to now ask him certain questions. I want to interrogate him. I want to debate with him and find whether really he is the greatest here. Okay, so now the next question comes. Interesting here. So here Yajnavalkyeti hovacha edidam sarvam mrityuna aptam sarvam mrityuna abhipannam केन यजमानः मृत्योः आप्तिम् अतिमुच्यते इति होत्रर्त्विजा अग्निना वाचा वाग्वै यज्ञस्य होता तद्येयं वाक् सः अयम् अग्निः स होता स मुक्तिः साति मुक्तिः. So here he asks Yajnavalkya. He says Yajnavalkya iti hovacha. So he now calls out Yajnavalkya and then told him what? He says all that is there here. Edidam sarvam mrityuna aptam. It is all covered by mrityu, pervaded by mrityu, death. Now again, this what is the meaning of this mrityu? Unless Bhashyakara comments, we will not know. Literally, mrityu means death only. In fact, previously in Brhadaranyaka itself, the word mrityu is used, correct? Mrityuna in 147, I think the word mrityu is used. Everything is covered by mrityu. In fact, not 147, sorry, it is used in that where the Ghatabhashya is there, correct? Everything is covered by mrityu. Like that, the word mrityu is used in different context, in different meaning. So here, mrityu means it is all karma lakshanena, Bhashyakara says. Swabhavika asanga sahitena, karma lakshanena, like that he is giving the meaning for mrityu here. So mrityu means karma, that which is characterized by karma means it is all limited, correct? Because any karma and karma phala, they are all limited. So that itself is a dosha. They are limited in the quantity wise. Of course, they are limited in all manner, space wise, time wise, object wise, and all that. So the karma itself, whatever is characterized by karma, it is all limited. And also further, this karma itself, particularly if it is swabhavika, means what? Whatever natural tendencies you have. The karma which is born out of your own natural tendencies. Means sense objects want to go after the sense organs want to go after the sense objects, and then you do action in keeping with that. Means that is swabhavika karma. Swabhavika karma is the worst. At least if you do the karma which is mandated by the Veda, then that is Shastrokta karma. So even amongst karma, there is Swabhavika karma, there is Shastrokta karma is there. So one of the things which everybody has to first do to qualify to become a Vedanta student is what? You give up your Swabhavika karma and start doing Shastrokta karma. That way you overcome your own likes and dislikes, ragadvesha. So at least that is better. But even Shastrokta karma also is limited, because it is also karma, its phala also is limited only. But in this case, the mrityu is the swabhavika. So whatever karma which is connected to your own natural tendencies, or which are born due to your own natural tendencies, that karma is called mrityu. So everything here, he says, whatever karma which is done by this Yajnavalkya and all, whatever karma you are doing to fulfill your own desires, kamya karma, are all mrityu. They are all covered by mrityu. In fact, they are all mrityuna abhipannam, means they are all under the spell of mrityu. And how can one overcome that? He is asking. So, kena yajamanaha mrityoho aptim atimuchyate iti. So, how can the yajamana, who can only otherwise get only limited results, how can he overcome that and get freedom from all these limitations, from mrityu itself? So again, this freedom or this liberation from mrityu or limitation is only relative here. So for that, Yajnavalkya will now tell you an upasana, okay, where one has to do this upasana, that whatever is there in some organ in one's body, and the one of the ritvik in the yajna, correct? Either hota or advaryu, like that. So you take, so whatever organ is there in your body is called adhyatma, and one of the ritvik is called adhi yajna. With reference to the yajna, you take one of the ritviks, then adhi daivam, one of the devatas associated with the organ and the ritvik. All three are one and the same. Like that, you have to do upasana. That is called adhimoksha. So once you do upasana like that, the limitation which is associated with the organ in the body, and of course the ritvik also is limitation which is associated with the ritvik, both of them you overcome, because now you transcend these two and now become one with the devata, who is the total. So at least with reference to that particular phenomenon, the total is limitless, countless. So now you have overcome the limitation of the individual and merged with the total. That is the idea of the upasana here. So he says, Hotra Ritvija. Hotra Ritvij is, the sandhi becomes Hotratvija. Okay, that's a tongue twister. Hotratvija Agnina. Okay, so the Agni, which is also Hota and which is also Vacha. So what he says is, all these three are, you have to see all these three as same. The Ritvik, who is Hota, the Agni, and Vak Indriya. So that he tells further, what Vagvai Yajnasya Hota, the Vak itself is the Yajnasya here means Yajamanasya. This also only Bhashyakara has to give us, because he then quotes one Shatapatha Brahmana Vakya saying Yajno Vai Yajamanaha. So Yajna here means, Yajnasya means actually Yajamanasya Hota. Okay, so Vag is the Hota, and for that also Bhashyakara is giving some quotations to establish all that. And then what? Tad yayam Vak Saha Ayam Agnihi. The Vak also is Agni, because Agni is the Adhisthana Devata for Vak. So the Upasana is Vag itself, which is the Indriya in the Adhyatma, is the Hota, who is the Adhi Yajna, and it is also the Adi Daiva, who is Agni. So it's all. So you take one with reference to your own body and then see that it is all same as the Adi Yajna and Adi Daiva. And that way you get Muktihi. So Sa Hota, Sa Muktihi, Sa Ati Muktihi. Like this, you transcend the limitations and attain relatively this immortality is there. You get a freedom from the limited individual. You just become one with the total. That is the idea here. So we'll just see the bhashya quickly. Yajnavalkyeti hovacha. Okay, so he then calls out Yajnavalkya. Then what? Bhashyakara gives an introduction here. Tatra madhukande panktena karmana darshana samuchitena yajamanasya mrityoho atyayaha व्याख्यातः उद्गीत प्रकरणे संक्षेपतः तस्यैव परीक्षा विषयः अयमिति तद्गत दर्शन विशेषार्थः अयं विस्तरः आरभ्यते. So Bhashyakara points out that whatever is the question which is being asked here, pariksha, because he is basically examining Yajnavalkya, correct? Our Ashwalaha. So this examination is based on what is the subject matter. Means that was already discussed in the Madhukanda. In fact, in the first chapter, I think it is 1.5, fifth Brahmana in the first chapter, the Panktam, the 5 factors, karma is called Pankta because it involves 5 factors. So the Pankta karma was discussed, and there only, when you do only karma, so karmana pitrulokaha, vidyaya devalokaha, and all it is said, correct? So once you also do upasana along with karma, you go to devaloka, means that is amrita is there. Okay. So you attain immortality as a deva because you don't really die. Of course, you will vanish from the devaloka also after all the punya is exhausted. But devaloka does not have any old age and death and all that like that. So that's why it is called Amrita Loka also. So here, that when you do samuchaya means when you combine both karma and upasana, okay, what happens? Yajamanasya mrityoho atyayaha vyakhyataha. So it was shown that the yajamana, when he does both karma and upasana together, when he combines that, he transcends, or he doesn't get birth again in this Martya Loka, he goes to Devaloka. Okay, that was shown. And that was again shown in a brief manner in the Udgita Prakarana also. There is a Udgita Prakarana where the Upasana was talked about based on Udgita. Now that the same thing is now again here talked about in more detail for the purpose of examining Yajnavalkya, correct? Tasyaiva pariksha vishayaha ayamiti tadgata darshana visheshanartha. So darshana visheshanartha means darshana here is upasana really, because upasana means you visualize something, correct? You see something. So whatever was talked about the upasana in the Pankta section and also in the Udgita Prakarana, the upasana which was briefly discussed there is now discussed in more detail as part of this examination, and for that purpose now it is being started in a very detailed manner because he is asking a question and then Yajnavalkya has to answer all the details. So it is being started here. Vistaraha arabhyate. Okay, what is that? Yadidam sadhana jatam asya karmanaha ritvig agnyadi mrityuna karma lakshanena swabhavika asanga sahitena aptam vyaptam. So yadidam Mrityuna aptam. Ididam sarvam. Mrityuna aptam is there here. That only Bhashyakara is giving the commentary here. So he says Edidam means sadhana jatam, whatever is obtained through some means here. And asya karmanaha ridvik agnyadi mrityuna karma lakshanena swabhavika asanga sahitena aptam vyaptam, he says. So whatever is there here, which is all born due to certain means, and for all that this different karma are there as sadhana, and of these karma, so for a karma you have to have ritvik to do the karma, Vaidika karma. Of course you have other factors like Agni, etc. All of them, because a karma, if you do the devata also, you have to call. All of them are pervaded by mrityu. Means mrityu means what? Bhashyakara gives the meaning here. Karma lakshanena. So mrityu here is really characterized by karma. That is mrityu. Whatever is characterized by karma is mrityu. And what kind of karma? Swabhavika asanga sahitena. So that which is connected to your own natural tendencies, particularly. That kind of karma lakshana is called mrityu here. Aptam means vyaptam, he says. And also not just pervaded, na kevalam vyaptam, abhipannam cha mrityuna, vashikritam cha, he says. So that which is under the spell of this mrityu. So how do we now overcome that? So kena darshana lakshanena sadhanena yajamanaha mrityoha aptim iti mrityu gocharatvam atikramya muchyate. So darshana lakshanena means by what kind of upasana? Okay, what kind of upasana, which is going to be the sadhana or the means for the yajamana to overcome this pervasion of mrityu. Mrityoha aptim ati means atikramya means you transcend or you go beyond that, beyond the reach of this mrityu, which mrityu gocharatva means the reach of mrityu, and you go atikramya means you go beyond that. So going beyond the reach of this mrityu, how can one become independent? Swatantraha, mrityoho avashaha, one who is not under the spell of mrityu bhavati, you can become by what upasana? By doing what upasana you can become independent? That is the question. So kena yajamanaha mrityoho aptim atimuchyata iti. So how does he become independent? Like this he asked the question. Thus, then the answer is now coming from Yajnavalkya. So Yajnavalkya, what does he say? Okay, before that there is a one doubt is raised. What is that? Nanu udgita eva abhihitam yena atimuchyate mukhya pranatma darshanena iti. So now one question is raised. He says in Udgita Prakarana only it was said that by doing upasana on the mukhya prana. Okay. One can, so you do the upasana that Atma is this mukhya prana. This is 1-6. If you go, you can see that 1-5-1-6. So the mukhya, the upasana there is I am the mukhya prana. Atma is the mukhya prana. If you do that, then you gain this amritatvam, which is relative. So this was already shown there. So why is it again discussed here? Okay, that is already abhihitam, he says. Udgita eva abhihitam, by which you transcend all these limitations. It was already said. In Bhashyakara says Badam. Yes, correct. What you are saying is correct. Badam Uktam. You said whatever you say is correct, but still what? Yaha anuktaha visheshaha. So even there, whatever it was only briefly said, but here it is now talked about in more detail. Whatever was left out there also is going to be discussed here. Therefore, there is no dosha or defect. So yaha anuktaha visheshaha tatra tadartaha ayam arambhaha iti adoshaha. So whatever is being begun here, started here, those things have not been discussed before. Therefore, there is no defect in talking about all these details. These details were not discussed before. And what is the detail here? Hotra, Ritvija, Agnina, Vacha, iti aha yajnavalkyaha. So how does one transcend? Means through the Hota, who is the Ritvik, and also Agni and Vak, he says. So through these things. And what is the meaning of just listing out all these things? So Etasya artham vyachaste. So the meaning of this also he says. Kaha punaha hota yena mrityum atikramati iti uchyate. So who is this hota? Through whom you overcome this mrityu. Okay, by him. So who is this means Vagvai Yajnasya Yajamanasya. So the Vak is the Hota, like that you have to do the Darshana or the Upasana. And that Vak is none other than the Yajnasya Yajamanasya. And again, Yajnasya Hota here means Yajamanasya Hota, Yajnyo Vai Yajamanaha. The Shatapatha Brahmana is being quoted by Bhashyakara here. So the Hota or the Rigveda Ritvik of the Yajamana is Vak, like that one's own Vak. The Yajamana's Vak is nothing but the Ritvik who is Hota, like that you have to do Upasana. So Yajnasya Yajamanasya Ya Vak Saiva Hota Adhiyajne. So the Adhyatma Vak is the Adhiyajna Hota. That is one Upasana. Okay. And then Katham, how can this be? Tat Tatra Yayam Vak Yajnasya Yajamanasya Saha Ayam Prasiddhaha Agni Adhidaivam Daivatam. Okay, further what? Not only the Vak, which is Adhyatmam, with reference to oneself, one's own body, mind sense complex, is the Hota, that is the Upasana, with reference to the Yajna. But with reference to the Devatas also, if you see, Vak is Agni, which is very Prasiddha, correct? Because Agni is the Adhishtana Devata of Vak, so that also is again the Upasana here. So Saha Ayam Prasiddhaha Agnihi Adhi Daivatam Tad Etat Trayanna Prakarane Vyakyatam. So this has already been said in another Prakarana called Trayanna Prakarana, 3 foods. This also we saw. If you go back and listen to the classes, you will know. This was there in the 1.5 again, I think. Trayanna Prakarana. 3 types of foods. We discussed that. So Sacha Agnihi Hota. So that Agni is the Hota and Vak is Agni and all of them. So you now do the Upasana that Vak, your own Vak is the Hota, is the Agni. That is the Upasana. Okay, that is the Darshana. And this here also, how can you say Agni is Hota means Bhashyakara is quoting. Agnirvai Hota, Shatapatha Brahmana is quoting again. Iti Shrutehe. So in keeping with all these things, this Upasana you have to do. So yed etad yajnasya sadhanadvayam hota cha ritvik adhiyajnam adhyatmancha vak etad ubhayam sadhanadvayam parichinnam mrityuna aptam swabhavika ajnana asanga prayuktena karmana mrityuna pratikshanam anyathatvam apadyamanam vashikritam tat anena adhidaivata rupena agnina drishyamanam yajamanasya yajnasya mrityoho atimuktaye bhavati. So he makes it clear now. Bhashyakara gives a nice note here. He says both this Hota, who is a Ritvik with reference to the Yajna, and the Vak Indriya of the Yajamana, both these things are pervaded by this Mrityu. Means they have the limitation. Because both of them are doing only karma. Because the Vak, by its natural tendency, what does it do? It goes after its own sense object, whatever is the object. And the Hota also is doing all this karma for the Yajamana. That also is limited. Both this Vak Indriya and the Hota, the Ritvik with reference to the Yajna, both of them are limited or pervaded by this Mrityu, which is karma. Swabhavika. So he says Swabhavika Ajnana Asanga Prayuktena Karmana Mrityuna. So the Mrityu here is nothing but this whatever karma which is born due to the connection with your own natural ignorance. Okay, natural tendency, which is nothing but ignorance only. So, and again in each kshana, so how you say it is mrityu means pratikshanam anyathatvam apadyamanam. Means every second it is all changing. It becomes anyatha. Therefore, it is all under the spell of this mrityu only. Vashikritam. Mrityuna vashikritam. So, any karma itself is based on only change. It is all changing all the time. Therefore, change itself is really death. So it's all under the spell of death only. So how do we then overcome this death? Means that anena adhidaivata rupena agnina drishyamanam. So the one who looks upon both the yajamana's vak and the hota, you do upasana that both of them are nothing but Agni, the Adidaiva, who is the total. When you do that, then you transcend this limitation and become one with the Devata. So that's what is said here. Rest of the bhashya and all we'll see next week. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Rubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.